Nightmare as a child had the potential to be a stronger installment of the show, but as is, it only does a passable job of telling this story. A few scenes land decently well, but I think this is one of those ideas that sounded better in the pre-production phase. Nonetheless, it does have a few memorable moments. School teacher Helen Foley returns home from a day at work to find a little girl waiting for her outside her apartment. She invites her in for a cup of hot chocolate, and things start to take a turn for the anomalous. The girl's name is Marky, and through her eerie disposition, she begins to divulge information about Helen's background and thoughts that only Helen would know. This includes earlier that same day when she locked eyes with a man she thought looked familiar but could not place. Marky leaves when that same man arrives at Helen's door. His connection to her past, in combination with Marky's mysterious appearances, have Helen questioning her own mental state as a traumatic childhood experience is brought to the forefront. Terry Burnham as Little Marky is pretty straightforward with her enigmatic dialogue. She's a bit creepy and does a decent enough job for a 10-year-old.
You got burnt once. That scar right below your elbow.
Janice Rule as Helen is kind of spotty for me. There are some lines and moments delivered believably, but others where there seemed to be a disconnect from the material or direction.
I'm kind of an expert on children. Quiet ones, noisy ones, all kinds. I teach school. Of course I remember.
How did it happen?
Well, actually I don't remember.
It's not really a good sign when the most compelling fact about this character is that she was named after one of Rod Serling's favorite high school teachers. As the story moves along, we meet Peter Selden, unsettlingly played by Shepard Strudwick. Helen saw him earlier that day, and slowly we find out that he used to work for her mother. Helen's mom was killed when she was just a little girl. As the conversation continues, Selden mentions that he even knew Helen around that time.
Well, it's wonderful to see you grown up the way you have. Just as beautiful as you were when you were a little girl. I had quite a crush on you. I lived in the same apartment building.
Yeah, I'm not sure if having a crush on someone meant something different in the early 1960s, but that is all kinds of gross. He blatantly says she was a little girl when he worked for her mom. That would make him an adult at the time. Strudwick was 24 years older than Rule. Is that supposed to make him creepier? I can't tell if that was intended or not, but it doesn't quite look like a red flag for the Helen character, so that was just odd. Strudwick does slowly show more of a threatening side as their chat turns more serious and provides more details on the murder of Helen's mother. After telling Helen he was the first person to find her mother the night she died, he reveals he's kept a picture of Foley as a child, because that's a regular thing people do, but the picture looks just like Marky. Peter even says Marky was Helen's nickname when she was a kid. Helen then has a flashback to the night of the murder, where we see what happened in shadow. Helen's been blocking these memories for years, and they're all just now flooding back to her. Marky appears again and tells her the truth we all probably guessed at this point.
I'm you, Helen. Understand now? I'm you. I'm you when you were 10 years old.
If you didn't get it, they made sure to spell it out, because this little girl goes on to mention every detail of that fateful night.
When you lived with your mother in the apartment house. I'm you when you were asleep with Mother downstairs, and she tried to get away, and she ran into your room, and a man caught her. Then he picked up something heavy, and he hit her on the head. Then you screamed so loud, Helen.
When Helen turns back around, Peter is still there. He can see it's all coming back to her, so he tells her the chilling truth.
That night, it was me in your bedroom. I killed your mother.
The guy who acted like a creep the entire time he was on screen turned out to not be a good guy. Shocking, I know. Apparently, he had messed with the books at their job, and when Helen's mom was going to inform on him, he killed her. The only reason Helen didn't suffer the same fate that night was because her screams brought people to the scene of the crime. All these years later, he's been following her in case her blocked-out memory ever returned to implicate him. Now that it has, Selden plans to kill her too. Helen runs and a scuffle ensues. It ends when she pushes him down a large flight of stairs to his death. This was actually a really good stunt, even if the double's face is plainly visible. The child version of Helen was a manifestation of her blocked memory that was trying to claw its way to the surface after she saw Peter on the street earlier that day. The episode ends with Helen seeing a different little girl outside her apartment and finally able to move past the traumatic event that dominated her entire life, consciously and unconsciously. There's nothing really sci-fi or supernatural about the ending twist, which makes this a bit of a rarity. The episode has a few decent sequences, but overall, I'd say this is a skippable episode. Everything felt very flat in just the one location, and the story presentation wasn't really interesting enough to draw me in for the full 25-minute duration. Director Alvin Ganzer is 2 for 3 in my book when it comes to these rewatches. If you want to see his better work, check out What You Need, or the classic Hitchhiker episode. Nightmare as a child is more of a forgettable daydream that you can leave in the Twilight Zone.